Thanks for downloading this episode from Teachers Talk Radio. You can find the full schedule and listen back to all our shows at ttradio.org. Enjoy the podcast.
Good evening and welcome to Education Tonight on Teachers Talk Radio. It's the 17th of October. It's 8 o'clock. And I did ask Brent to put us out of our misery and show us the hat, but I now know it's a big head rather than a hat. But
I like the hat.
Is that your hat or is it?
Yeah.
Howdy. Is it Howdy? Is it Howdy?
It is, yeah. I got this in the States. I lived in America.
It's hardly a Stetson, isn't it?
No. But there we go.
Pound shop Stetson. So we've got quite a lot to talk about tonight, Brent. So we're going to discuss the ongoing attendance problem. No, that's not the attendance problem.
That's Roy Orbison.
the attendance problem. Okay, maybe he's part of the problem. Who knows?
Where did that come from?
Well, I may as well explain now we've seen it. I was going to do a setup on the Big O. I've had a call. It's the Big O.
Ah.
Do you get it?
The Big O, yeah. The Big O.
The
Travelling Wilburys, yeah. Roy Orbison.
So Roy Orbison. So, yes, that's my news this week that we've had a call from kind of Ofsted. So it'll be very interesting to kind of reflect on that, and that's what I intend to do kind of after the dust settles to kind of go through all of that. But it's interesting because even though there has been kind of change kind of from Ofsted, and we've kind of discussed that on numerous shows with Frank Norris and Edmund, and we've got a kind of whole back catalogue kind of on Ofsted.
Even though there has been... Sorry, some feedback there.
Yep, no worries. It's interesting though that this is kind of an ad just from tonight. So if you look at the kind of how the media is doing this, it says here, this is an advert from the Telegraph. So see which state schools rank the best and worst for GCSE grades and Ofsted ratings in your area. So societally, we're still kind of quite a long way away, I think, from a kind of ranking, kind of judging system that can be kind of quantified and put in a kind of table for people to buy houses and choose schools and that type of thing. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting ad that literally popped up just for the show. I'm showing you that. Any thoughts on that?
I don't look at the end of the day. A school has to be the perfect fit for, in many ways, not only the staff but also the students. And I think sometimes, it depends what you're looking for. You're looking for facilities. Are you looking for, subjects? Are you looking for the teachers? I mean, there are a couple of red flags for me when you look at staff turnover. You look at the behavior of the students. And as a parent myself, who've looked at schools for my own children, for me, it's got to be pastoral care. I'm sorry, but results aren't as important to me as the welfare and well-being of my child. And that does not always come out on those type of ranking table type of things, because when you go around the school, you get a feel for its warmth, its culture, its ethos, its values, and those things are sometimes hard to quantify. The culture, the same with the classrooms. You can get a successful teacher, and you say, well, what's the classroom culture? What's the classroom climate? And you think to yourself, do I want my children to be successful? Yes, but do I want them to be happy? Do I want them to be well adjusted? Yeah. Do I want them to go to school and want to go to school? That's the important thing there. And I think that's connected to what we're talking about later on, is that getting success at all costs and hothousing kids and getting league tables isn't exactly the be all and end all if you are stressing out children and causing all sorts of, issues as a result of that. There's got to be some medium ground. And I think how we value schools has got tied up into everything else in society, algorithms, data. It's got cold, it's got clinical. And I don't think that's exactly the human side of things, because we're dealing with human beings, we're dealing with kids. And I think the human side of it's where I would say there needs to be more focus on, less of focus on this is a good school because it's got X, Y, and Z data. I think this is a good school because the children go to school happy, the children are productive, the children enjoy their lessons. Those are the type of things I think they're important.
Yeah, cool. So we'll discuss that maybe in a week's time or so, see kind of how I feel. It might be a week or a week after, kind of. But I do want to kind of pull that apart. Before we kind of get into tonight's main topic, the attendance problem, I just want to say a quick hello to our sponsors, the people that kind of support us. So it's that time of the evening, Brent, that we say hello to John Catt.
Hi, John.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today. Visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. And Reading Solutions, the home of the Dreambox Reading Plus, the online reading development program. Create stronger readers in your school from Key Stage 2 and beyond using the Reading Plus's evidence-based adaptive technology. Reading Plus accurately assesses your students' skills gaps and places them on a personalized learning pathway built to accelerate their strengths and improve their areas for development. You can try the program with a free 4-hour pilot today. Search Reading Solutions UK to find their website and request a free demo. So we've kind of done, so thank you to our sponsors. We really appreciate your support. But we've gone along the, we've got an early kind of commenting from something you said already, Brent. Spot on, Brent. I stayed in my last school for 17 years because it was such a joy to teach there. I think we're both in that boat. I mean, I've become a bit nomadic over the last couple of years, but certainly for the first 14 years, I was in kind of one school. I think there is a real impact that you can make if it does work. It didn't quite work out for me, but if you can stay there, it's obviously there's high rewards within it. Mm-hmm. So if we just have a look at where we are now, so the current context, the attendance problem, we've got the headline facts and figures of the kind of dashboard that the government kind of puts together. So we can see there that overall absence, is at 6% at the minute. And if you remember, kind of back right at the end of the summer, we were up kind of 10%. Authorised absences at 4%, and we've got unauthorised absences at 2%. And you can see right at the bottom there, you can see it just broken down into type. 4.2 in funded primary schools, 6.8 in state-funded secondary schools, and I think this is kind of one of the shockers to me with this, Brent. 11.4% in state-funded special schools. So obviously, all data tells a story. So, what story do you pull out of that data?
It's the pattern, isn't it? It's the fact that attendance is on the slide. There's a definite sort of anecdotally in my own sort of lifetime, when I think of attendance when I was at school, of getting 100% attendance 3 out of 5 years when I was at school, and I think attitudinally as well. I think there is the difference of generations of how they view school, the social contract of school. I think there is definitely patterns I've noticed in Fridays. There's a drop off on Fridays, drop off before half terms and the week after half terms. There seems to be less window where we can get really good productive time to get children to get good progress, because you lose the last week, because parents just say, right, last week of term, I'm taking the kid off to a holiday. And certainly I'm noticing patterns in my own practice, but even just in attitude. When I was absent at school, in the few occasions I brought a letter into my teacher to say, this is the reason why. Now there's, people ringing up parents lying, people covering it up. It's just like, what's going on? Like, I mean, attendance at school should be a massive priority and a parental sort of responsibility. And
when did that drop off? Because obviously, as I remember, kind of that was a big thing, wasn't it? That you had to take a note in from your parents, and then it became kind of when I started my career, there used to be like a section in the personal organizer. That parents could like write a kind of detailed note of what's going on. Are you saying that we've made it too easy for people to call in absent? Is that kind of the thread?
Call in absent and lie, parents saying, that my child's sick today. And you're like, hold on a second here. they're having a duvet day. And even the kids give the game away. Here's the thing, kids give the game away and say, yeah, such and such was shopping yesterday. And you're like, okay, with who? The parents. And I think there's a little bit of an issue of, as some parents, for instance, are working from home.
Yeah.
I think there's a definite shift from COVID. Society's changing. People are working from home. Work patterns have shifted. So I think there's just some issues now. And now, don't get me wrong, there is the neurodiversity issue. There is the SEND provision issue. There is, issues, things like poverty and austerity. There's more to it than just that. But I think,
as we heard last week, there are people with long COVID and can't get NHS appointments, and all of that's got to go into the mix as well. Sure.
It does, but that would be your baseline attendance issues. We've always had children who are not well. We've always had children, who get flus and virus and coughs and colds and all the rest of it. But then we've always had, stuff that we've had to deal with in schools. But I think schools are under pressure. And this is the problem I think parents need to understand. Schools can feel their Ofsted on things like attendance. We're under massive pressure out of something outside our control. And parents want the school to have a good Ofsted. But do they realize by them keeping their children off school, they're putting the school under pressure? And of course, school responds like they do when it comes to behavior with what some consider draconian measures and fining and everything else. Do they not realize that's a response to the pattern, what's happening? We have to respond. We have to say there has to be a legal obligation for children to go to school. And that's just the way it is. But one of the things that upsets me is that if parents flagrantly say to their children, oh, don't worry, you don't need to go to school today, and then say to the children, oh, don't worry, I've sorted it out with school, rung up school and then said to school, oh, my child's not well, when they're all right. What are they really teaching their children there? It's okay, you can pull it. Now, tell them that 10 years down the line, these people enter the labour market. I mean, what are we going to have in the future when it comes to a labour market? Now, I worry about that, because I tell you why I worry about that. I worry about that when these future generations are up against artificial intelligence and automation. It's an absolute perfect storm, because we need our kids now to be more resilient, more stoic, more motivated, more going to school. And yet they're like...
So do you think this is a wider issue, actually? People are in wider society, including adults, because there has been kind of some kind of gripe, especially in the right-wing media, linked to productivity, that basically is kind of calling kind of us Britain a bit of a kind of sick note culture at the minute.
I think that.
Yeah. Obviously it's coming from the kind of right-wing media, so it does feel a little bit kind of culture warsy. However, is there an element of truth in it?
There is some truth in it. Yeah, there is some truth. And I'm going to say it now, Teacher Talk Radio, don't take me off air, but I think even staff, I think, to be honest with you, I think now I've never had so much like, I've done my hours. You're a teacher. You don't clock in and clock out. You don't clock in and clock out. I'm sorry. I'm a union rep. We don't do that in teaching. We are, more than that. But there is this societal sort of thing of, right, this is my hours. And yeah, okay, work-life balance is a really important thing. And I will always argue for work-life balance. But even now, I just don't think, and I think during COVID, I'll be honest, I don't think everybody was honest. I honestly don't think, I'm serious, I don't think people were honest during. I think there was people who were saying...
Just going back to that point there, do you think sometimes, because I've certainly had this conversation myself, other people have had this conversation with me, there has been times when 100% I should have been off.
Oh yeah.
Okay? But I haven't, and I've kind of prolonged the issue. I've been worse because of it. I haven't felt well then for a kind of a longer period of time. The illness has kind of dragged on, especially as a viral infection, been dragged on for a while. So, I mean, is it that some teachers, particularly maybe of our generation and the older generation, have maybe sometimes done themselves kind of harm?
You mean we are the older generation?
Well, there are.
Aren't we? I mean, we're both 20 years.
There's going to be a tipping point. I like to class myself still in the middle.
Okay, I class myself still in the middle, but look, we're in a very high impact profession. We do suffer burnout, and there is genuine situations where people are ill and people get ill.
I understand burnout, but what I'm talking about is kind of other ailments. Like, for example, I'm in a position now where I'm, in a different kind of situation. I've been able to get to the hospital tonight to get something checked out on my wrist. Years ago, that would have been something that kind of just was left to kind of linger for a while until it got to the point where my wrist basically didn't work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now I've been able to get it checked tonight. Actually, there seems to be like a very simple procedure. I can get that fixed and it's going to be sorted. I know it's going to be sorted. Okay, it hasn't got out of control. I've nipped it in the bud early, job done. But are there people that would just go, oh, I've got that another PowerPoint to write, I've got that other bit of schema learning to work on, I've got this bit of marketing, it'll be all right, I will kind of check on that, and then don't actually look after themselves properly. So are we kind of looking back at other people going, what are you guys doing? Because we would be so resilient, maybe over the top to the point of almost be kind of, self-harming in some respect. Because we're kind of letting ourselves go because of
I think you said that before. We can be martyrs sometimes, and we need to look after ourselves. I mean, 2 weeks ago you heard my voice. Probably should have sort of taken time off. But then the other implication of taking time off as a teacher is one of the very few jobs where you take time off and you're worse off and then you come back because you've got a pile of marking to do and you've got all that stuff to do and all those responsibilities. And I mean, one of the things always that upsets me is, as a teacher, like ringing ill on the day that you're ill at 7 o'clock in the morning and provide oodles of cover work. Like, I am genuinely ill. It's the last thing I want to do at that time in the morning when I'm not well.
I think that depends on the management and culture, because I can say for the last 3 schools that I've worked in, they have specifically said, do not do that. If you are ill,
they do, but some schools don't.
Well, I'm saying, I was asking, so it does depend on management, doesn't it? It depends on the person.
Some heads of department, some heads of department.
Maybe I've been fortunate then that the position I've been in, they've said to me, we know you don't go off very ill. I think that's also the key. If you're someone like me that maybe calls in sick once in a blue moon, if I'm ill, I'm ill. I'm not waking up at any time to do anything. But by the time I make that call, because I hate making that call, I really hate it. I can't do the sick voice. I can't do the I can't do any of that. I can't.
You mean you do the Darth Vader and get?
I can't do it. So I wonder if when we think of it, when we kind of assess illness, we're kind of looking at children going, "Oh, come on, you can do it." Whereas because of the way we were treated by our parents' generation was like, I had the comment from Mum, why don't you go into school and see how you get going?
And their parents, don't get me wrong, there are still parents that do that, and there are still many parents who get what we're saying, and the bulk of parents are still with us. Let's be honest about that. The bulk of kids are fantastic, and the bulk of kids are dealing with a different set of issues, and you got to be careful of sort of generational sort of shaming, and we've got that from, as you say, from some sections of the media. But there is a grain of truth in it. There is an honest grain of truth in it. I think kids have just got clever at knowing that, okay, if I pretend I'm not well, parents are going to basically wrap me up. I do think some parents have got a little bit mollycoddling and overprotective. And that comes from a nice, benevolent place. I get that. But there is a resilience problem and stoicism problem with our children sometimes. And that's not the children's fault. That is just how they've been brought up in a way of, I get kids saying to me, I've got a headache, and you think, do you really have a headache? Or the medical room. I told you about me going down into the medical room and clearing the medical room, going, I've got a first aid qualification. Let me see. And they're showing me their finger, and I'm like, where is it? My finger's cut. And I'm like, where? And they're like showing me this finger, and I'm like, get out of the medical room. Go. Yeah. And they look at you just like, I'm like, go. Because it's just, what are you doing? Like, you're walking. I mean, I would never in a million years gone to our school ever and said to the office and went, I'm not feeling very well. I would have been like, take some water and off you go. And I'm not saying that's healthier, but there is a culture now of just sometimes just get on with it. I do think we are enabling it, and it comes with kindness and benevolence. And I think as well, there are children play possum. They want to stay at home in the technology, and I think that's a game changer. I think the technology, the smart technology, the addictions that children have, the addictions to computer games, the addictions to their phones, the addictions to social media, addictions to a lot of things. And I think that this attendance things corresponds with really, I think 2010, 2011 onwards, it's got worse. And that corresponds with social media, online gaming, online. And when I look at the children who are knackered, absolutely zombified, falling asleep in lessons, can't do a full day, and I go, either the generation of children we have here are physiologically different, genetically, physiologically different, or there is things going on in their lives which is knackering them out before they even get to school. And as a diet, is it attitude, is it lifestyle? It's just so many things, Adam, I think, come together.
Yeah, well, we can see the impact. I'm sure kind of most people have seen these kind of graphics kind of floating around on social media or LinkedIn accounts. But it's interesting. I find it interesting. I had this conversation with you in the week. Is that there was only one good when I was at school. That was 100%. It's interesting that 95% now is kind of classed as good. Now, again, is that us being more realistic with school,
No.
or is it actually, or is it kind of we've lowered the bar a little bit to kind of accommodate? So again, we can say, it's a little bit like that thing about kind of giving awards out for 4th and 5th place in kind of sports.
When I started, our average attendance was 96, 97, was above 95. It's hovering around 91, 92.
Yeah.
Now you could say, right, okay, that's what's happening there and all those things I'm talking about. But the bar has been lowered. The average has been lowered. The number of days children are going to school has been lowered. And what really concerns me is the contact time and the consistency. And really, this is the crux of the matter. The children who have the worst attendance, statistically speaking, are the disadvantaged, the pupil premium. Ironically, the ones who need to be in school the most.
Yeah.
And that compounds the disadvantage gap. If you go into any school and you say, show me the attendance records for your SEND, show me attendance records for your pupil premium, and if you show me attendance records for SEND kids who are pupil premium, and I guarantee you, hands on, they will have the worst attendance records. Now, some might say that's needs not being met. That might be other issues going on, but they are the children who need to be in school the most, and they are the children who traditionally have the worst attendance. It's a double hit. They need the school the most, and yet they're the ones who are in the least.
But it's incredible if you kind of work that out. So 10 days, if you look at 95%, that's 10 days of absence. If in most schools they do like what, five lessons, hour-long lessons, so 5 lessons, that's 50 lessons. All of a sudden that has a massive impact, doesn't it? So if you take in kind of like maths and English or something, that you have a lot of those lessons in a week, all of a sudden you've missed a massive chunk of the curriculum, haven't you? Just at 95%.
There's another way of looking upon it. A child at 90% attendance is losing 10% of their school. 10% of their school is 1.2 years.
Yeah.
Now, again, a child is already behind. Now, you take a child who's maybe a young boy at GCSE. So take a child who's a boy at 15 doing his GCSEs. His brain is already behind a girl who's 16, a day older maybe. So you're talking about massive disadvantages to some children when it comes to attendance. It compounds already the gaps that exist there, especially in disadvantage, especially in pupil premium, especially in SEND, especially children who are youngest in the year. All of that filters into the reasons why, we get judged as teachers. And Tom Rogers is right when he says this all the time. They're not our results, but yet somebody will sit down to me and say, could you explain to me these exam results? And I feel like saying, what do you want me to do? Ring the child up and give them a get out of bed call. I mean, the government was talking a couple of months ago about sending head teachers around in cars to pick up children. Come on. At what stage do we have to say that it is not my responsibility if a child comes to school or not? I can't not be responsible as a teacher for a child's attendance. And that is where I don't think schools are doing the best they can. And equally, what are they to do? It's a hard one because you want children in school. I want to see children in school, but it's so frustrating when you are a teacher and that child is not there, and they come in a couple of days later in a different lesson. You've moved on, and that child's going to you, sir, I missed the last lesson. You think, okay, I'll give you that piece of work. What happens to their confidence? What happens if they skip the learning?
Well, that was the other thing as well. I remember kind of if we ever did miss a lesson, we were sent in and we had like a little thing that we had to kind of fill in to hand in work to different teachers. I just want to kind of go through because I've got the dashboard from the government website. And hopefully we can share that with our viewers tonight. And if you listen to the podcast, well, you should tune in live to to see these amazing videos, but amazing clips that we put up. But a bit of a plug for the kind of online on online view, because we do kind of put screens. If you are listening to us on the on Spotify, first of all, thank you. I didn't mean that, but obviously, if you tune on YouTube every Thursday night live, you can kind of see the visuals that we talk about. So I'll just do a little bit of kind of explaining, just in case people are listening to it back. So we've got the attendance and absence headline and reasons off the Department of Education kind of website. And what you can do with this website is you can actually kind of see at the bottom here, I'll just hover over here, you can see the reasons for absences in the latest week. So we've got 3%, this is total. So you can kind of have primary, secondary, special, or total. So I've just gone with total just to kind of give an overall figure. But we've got 3% illness, 0.3% medical or dental appointments. And again, this can be a really challenging one, can't it? Because, when can you get appointments? I had a conversation with a lad the other day who kind of got in trouble because we kind of shy away from dentist appointments, but he's actually going to the orthodontist. So I said, if you say the orthodontist, it kind of gives you a bit more kind of chance to kind of get the
children have always done that, but that one's always been all throughout my career. We've had children had those medical or normal appointments. They've never really reached a critical mass. However, I take your point with the NHS in full retreat and social services in full retreat. Yeah. Obviously, getting an appointment becomes even more important. And is there more pressure now to go during non-peak hours? And non-peak hours would be school hours. So it's a really good point. It'd be interesting to study there to see how many more medical appointments there are as a result of how busy our services are. I think that's a good point. Yeah, it's a really good point.
But it's interesting, kind of unauthorized absences. We've got holidays there. And this is kind of an interesting one. There is, even at this stage in the year, really, where I don't think we don't see that many people kind of go on holiday. Maybe next week that might pop up a little bit. It's maybe worth kind of revisiting that one next week as we come to half term, who kind of nips off on the holidays a little bit earlier.
But there were a few who come back late from holidays in early September. You do get the odd don't you straggler who's taking a late holiday or early September holidays. So you do get that and actually filtering into the start of term.
Yeah, I mean, again, it'll be really interesting data to look at kind of over time, and especially the impact of the fines on parents, whether that is actually having an impact, or are parents just kind of baking it into their kind of holidays as a cost, as a kind of a cost benefit analysis. They're thinking, well, 100 quid fine to the school. If I do get fined, we'll just pay that, and it's kind of a part of the issue that we're going to have.
The local newspapers, which sometimes I comment on, the live versions, which are sometimes bin fires when it comes to winding people up, in a sense, they do clickbait stuff. But when you see that about fines for teachers, I do follow the threads to see what parents are saying, unscripted and pretty much off unleashed. And you do get a lot going. I'm taking my child out. I'll take the hit. I've done this. I built 200 quid into the 200 quid finding, and I still save the grand and go into a certain resort. So yeah, parents just turn around and take the hit. But going back to my other point, they're willingly turn around and say to their children, we're going to take you out of school. We're going to undermine school. We're going to undermine your education. And by the way, we're going to save a couple of quid doing it. Result, they're teaching their children that it's okay to bend the rules, break the rules, but you know what? It's all right. And you think the morality of that, that's what I have the issue with. I have the issue with being lied to. I have an issue with game playing like that. An issue with people then, and this is the one that really gets me going, is then denying it. When the child comes back, you know what I mean, with a suntan, and you're going,
where
did you been last week? You look a little bit tired there. And you think, come on.
Especially at Christmas.
That one. Yeah,
Christmas in kind of Erewash or Derbyshire. All of a sudden,
and I was Lapland, and that is the incessant thing that can be really frustrating. Is the working and parents can be sometimes quick to blame schools, attack schools, undermine schools. You think, help us out, be honest with us, just be honest. And I have no problem with a child who's got 98%, 99% attendance, and their parents say a 1 week holiday that's very special to us, a wedding somewhere. I don't think people have issues with that. It's just when those ducking and diving, shirking responsibility, and then trying to get what they want, and then just complaining about getting fined. And you think, you are teaching your children to break rules. You know what I mean? and say, don't worry, I speed camera, don't worry, you can do 45 in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. Just take the couple of penalty points and the fine. It's not a big thing. I mean, what is the morality that's where they're teaching their children, and it's all right to break and bend the rules? You're sure, yeah. It's just that's what sticks with me a little bit.
I mean, if you look there, that data from Sky News, I know this is an old site, but 2000 in August, this is at the end of the summer holidays. So 400,000 penalty notices were issued. Now, I just wonder if those 400,000 people would have done it anyway, irrelevant of the fine or whatever. Like, some people just don't take their kids out of school because, as you said, there's a moral argument. They want their kids to be in school. They kind of understand the power of education, etc. They're just not going to do it, whether there's a fine or not. I just wonder if they took away the fine, would it make any difference? Would it have that impact on those families anyway?
I think you could double that. Although there's a part of me that is unhappy about it. There's another part of me that goes, a hard-working family who have got very little time, they're time poor, they're working multiple jobs, there's a cost of living crisis, and here comes the school on top of the uniforms, on top of the food, on top of the buses, in a cost of living crisis, and the food, the school is fining those parents. And I think there is sometimes a case to be made of a parent saying, look, this is our situation, this is where we're at, can we take our child out of school? And then a reasonable head teacher saying, okay, your child's got brilliant attendance, we will allow for that. I can understand that. I can understand that, and I can understand why some parents do it. I can sympathize, but here's the kicker. Do you know what I feel like next week? I feel like just taking my two children off. Shall I just phone in sick for the week and just go off? I'll go. And what would I say to parents if I turn around and say, you know what? I'm taking my two children out. Sod your children. I'm going to look after my children and my family, and I'm going to do the best for my family, and I'm going to put my family first, and I'm going to take my children to a bespoke movie holiday and save a fortune, because I, as a teacher, have to suffer the same thing when it comes to turn time. How would that go down? And then I would lie to the school. I lied to my employer, lied to school, and said, "Oh no, I didn't take my children out."
I wonder if that is happening. That is the scenario. The parent is happy not lying or misleading their employer. So therefore, it doesn't matter about.
Well, you think they're actually turning around and saying, "No, we're not well," but they're off. I
don't know. I just wonder if that whole kind of code's been broken in that family. That actually kind of no one really cares about well, maybe they don't tell it as lie. Maybe they kind of justify it in a kind of rounded way about, family time, well-being, and actually this is kind of really important to us.
What I will say is, and there is a parental argument to be had on this. Teacher strikes, we undermined it. The last week of term, sure, well, we're just watching videos anyway.
Yeah.
The one that always drives me doolally is if parents think we have a day off. Well, the teachers, they have these inset days. Oh, really? And do you think, what are we doing on inset days? They're the most misunderstood thing in education. People just think, we go for a day off. We're actually sitting in a room sometime, pulling our hair out, going, whatever hair we have left. And then saying, I'm sitting doing safeguarding training. I'm sitting doing this training, that training, this training. So isn't it sort of... Yeah, I get why parents do it. I sympathize with some, but I just think there's a culture now, a culture of ducking and diving and lying and covering, and it's okay, Jack. And I think that came from the top, from the government during what happened during COVID. I think it just perforated throughout society of there are consequences. And you want to tell me why behavior is the way it is in some of our schools? I will tell you that it is the attitude of, well, yeah, they're just rules. And I think this is another branch of that culture that's come in, which is basically do what we want. Sure, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, and also kind of another thing, just adding there, I put the poster up from the NHS because they are doing a campaign at the minute to get children as well as kind of elderly people vaccinated coming up to the kind of flu season. There's another thing just to say about kind of vaccine generally. That's a big support for teachers as well, isn't it? If the children population are vaccinated, not getting ill, and the wider society is a bit more kind of supportive with vaccines, obviously that protects us in the workplace, as we kind of learned last week as well. But I don't know whether that contract's gone as well a little bit around kind of vaccinations, because we had outbreaks in Birmingham kind of last year with measles. That obviously had a massive impact in that area with attendance. So there are people are going to fall ill this winter, aren't they?
But the connection to that also is, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to do what's best for me. I'm going to do what I want. I'm not going to do what's best for the collective good. I'm not going to do what's best for everybody else. There's that attitude that comes in of, I want what I want, and I'm getting what I want. I want to go on holiday. I'm going on holiday. It's on term time. So what? I'll just take a fine. So what's the consequences? Not fine. And there's a blasé. There's a blasé about it. When you read through these threads that you see on these parents, the parents talking on online, unguarded. There's just a blasé about it, of almost a boasting about it. Like, yeah, well, I saved £1,000 on my holiday. Took a £200 fine. Way, what up for me? What? And there's that attitude of almost one up for us. We made a deal. It's like this economic sort of bonus of, I saved £1,000 on a holiday that was 2 weeks after everybody else, and my child went on that holiday. And you think that child comes back and his mates turn around and go like, where are you? Oh, on a holiday. Was it great? Yeah, fantastic. We saved £1,000. Then the next parent's like, wow, well, they did that. Yeah. Why can't we? If somebody else gets away with it, and why shouldn't we? I think that's the epidemic that's starting to happen. Anywho, what are we? Yes. We should do our sponsors. I think we need to have a word from our sponsors.
So I just wanted to. Sorry, it's my fault, Lucy. I have to give you the wrong number. There you go. I apologize. As much as we love Sting, I think on Teachers Talk Radio. So, do you want to talk through this? Obviously, remember.
Yeah.
Audio describe it for podcast listeners.
I think there's a little bit of sort of I'm trying to be sympathetic towards those genuinely who are school refusing at the moment, and mental health, and also those, as we saw last week, it's separating the wheat from the corn, and basically trying to say, look, there are genuine reasons why some children don't go to school, and the SEND crisis and the NHS crisis, many reasons, and I think we'll have to separate those. And this cartoon may illustrate, I think, a little bit of that. So you have a child here in the sense who doesn't want to go to school. The parents saying, sweetie, it's important that you go to school each day. And the parents saying,
I'll do the kid. So you do the adult, I'll do the kid.
Yeah, sweetie, it's important you go to school. All right. Sweetie, it's important you go to school every day.
But why?
You learn things that are important in life. You make lots of friends and you get to have new, amazing experiences.
Okay. I guess I'll go.
Oh, I had to lie to my kid to get him out of bed today. Glad I'm an adult and I don't have to go to school anymore.
No kidding. I still have nightmares about going to school. Those hallways will haunt me forever.
Will haunt me forever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there is a little bit of that as well, isn't there? There's a little bit of
Oscar performance. Well.
It is. Well, which brings us on to maybe potential jobs that we may do in the future out of teaching, which is what we're going to talk about later on as a bit of a fun thing, because this is a bit of a heavy one. And although I'm having a bit of go at some things, I do genuinely understand there are some reasons why children don't go to school. I'm sympathetic towards it. But the problem is that you have to separate those who are genuine from those who are playing games and playing the system and undermining schools, undermining education, undermining their children's futures, just basically doing what they want. And it just grinds my gears. It's maybe the teacher in me that just doesn't like people playing games and playing systems like that, because it's not fair. It's not fair on the children, it's not fair on the teachers, and it's not fair on many aspects of it. Just because you can get away with something or you can game the system doesn't mean you morally do that. And I think there's the way that 57% of parents surveyed said they would take the fine and still take their children out of school really concerns me, because that concerns me for the support that they're giving, not only education, but their children's future. And that something's happening to the social contract about schools, education, the values about education in this country. And that is, for me, is a canary in the coal mine. When you have parents who are saying, I'm willingly taking my child out of school, I'll take the fine for that. And they're happy to break and bend the rules to get what they want and undermine education. It's alien to me, as an educator and somebody who strived to be educated and came from a humble background that saw education as so vitally important. I just can't understand how education is now seen to be less important, because I think it's, of course, I'm biased when I say it, one of the most vital things that children have to get.
It's also important to say, that after all this absence, we've got 94% of students that are, turning in kind of very regularly to school as well. Right, so we're going to part that section. I no doubt we'll come back to that more and more times as well. It'd be good to actually a regular update, wouldn't it? Almost a bit like the COVID announcements, the actual kind of attendance. We could do
Next graph, please.
Yeah, we could do a kind of weekly kind of update, couldn't we, on that app? So we're just going to pause for a moment while we just say hello to our sponsors for tonight.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. John Catt have an exceptional collection of book titles that cover a range of educational topics, ideas and research. The books are aimed at forward-thinking schools and support best practice teaching for both primary and secondary education. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order.
Introducing Reading Solutions UK, home to Dreambox Reading Plus, the online reading development programme, improving outcomes for students and schools nationwide. Create stronger readers in your school from Key Stage 2 to beyond GCSE, using Reading Plus's evidence-based adaptive technology. Reading Plus accurately assesses your students' skills gaps and places them on a personalised learning pathway, built to accelerate their strengths and improve on their areas for development. You can try the programme with a free 4-week pilot today. Search Reading Solutions UK to find their website and request your free pilot today.
I don't know about you, but I want my free pilot. I call Maverick.
You just want a pilot.
I want a free pilot. Look, Reading Solutions says you get a free pilot, so I'll take Maverick. You can be my goose.
Yeah, how many pilots now are thinking, hang on, have I signed up for this? Just being distributed around the country. The country.
You're a bit of an Iceman, actually. I think you're more of a Val Kilmer Iceman, aren't you?
I'll take it. I don't think I've ever watched. I don't think it's one of those films that kind of people talk about. I don't think I've actually fully watched.
Never watched Top Gun?
No, I don't think I have. And that kind of, there was like a kind of those kind of films around. What's the other one? Is it Cocktail?
Oh, Cocktails.
Yeah, I don't think I kind of went down that kind of world. But
yeah, I did. I'm such an 80s VCR guy. I had all those movies in VCR and watched them religiously, so I can give you the scripts, give you the Cognan's Law. Yeah, I love my movies like that. Yeah. Which brings us, are we doing our fun story?
I think we should say anyway. Thanks, Reading Solutions UK. Anyway.
Thank you, Reading Solutions, and we're doing
it in jest, but we really do appreciate.
We do, yes, we do. Thank you, Reading Solutions.
Second story is about tonight, kind of about responsibility, isn't it? Again, really, yeah. kind of two things are kind of linked. Really thinking about the kind of parents and the kids' responsibility, and kind of our responsibilities as well as teachers. Let's not take us out of it. We do have responsibilities here that we do need to kind of uphold. So we kind of put a kind of little list together, didn't we? So what do you want to do? Do you want to start? I mean, we've done attendance, I think, a little bit. I think kind of the next big thing would be something like home learning or homework or independent learning.
Yeah, so we're sort of suggesting, right, what percentage, would be, you've got parent, you've got teacher, you've got pupil. So you say, right, what percentage of responsibility would attendance be for parent, teacher, and pupil? And I think, honestly speaking, 60% parent, 30% child, 20% school, maybe we got 20% teacher. Does that work out? No. 60?
Well, 60, 20.
20, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the bulk of it has to be, until that child is of age, the parental responsibility is, and I think that is the same when it comes to equipment. So let's do equipment. So bringing equipment to school.
So is that one done then? So that's attendance, is it? So
yeah. Well, what you tell me? What do you think? So
60, attendance is 60. So remind me again at the start. So
60 parent, 20 the pupil, and then 20 the school, not the teacher, but 20% the school.
Yeah, to support and kind of guide and that type of thing. But ultimately, kind of, I guess as a parent, I think that my responsibility certainly would be that I'd be leading the responsibility of getting my child to school. I'd be leading the responsibility of informing the school if there was a problem and that my child couldn't come into school. And I think I would be leading the responsibility with my own children to make sure they've caught up work that they've missed. So I think I would go slightly high. I think I kind of go more to 70-80% with the parent there.
Parent.
Yeah, because I think ultimately, kind of, I am, I made a choice, didn't I? Or me and my wife made a choice, and that's our child. These are our children. I'm very grateful for the support the school gives us, and any support they can give us is great. But ultimately, I believe, I'm going to provide as much support as I can. If I can't, I'm then still going to lead on me trying to find a solution, and that might involve a professional, a teacher, someone else, a medical person. It could be a doctor, but I'm going to ultimately be leading that situation.
I suppose what the school have got responsibility for is obviously the curriculum, the learning, accessing the learning, meeting the needs of the learner, the pastoral side of things, the bullying, the cyberbullying, some of the safety in the school grounds. So we've got that when they're under our care, and are they productive? Are they doing well? What's going on with, especially
we know that, don't we? Because as soon as they pass the threshold, there is a legal responsibility then when my child is beyond the school gates to then that kind of to switch a little bit, and actually the school becomes much more responsible.
Yeah,
during that time, they do literally become the parent, don't they? In that respect,
you take the number of hours in a year and the number of hours children are in school. They're in school 190 days. That's if they're let's go back to attendance. They have average attendance. So 190 days by 6 or 7 hours. The rest of the time, they're not our responsibility. So the bulk of the time, they are the parents' responsibility and their own as well. I suppose what you'd do is you'd say maybe as the child gets older, I think that responsibility of parents starts to shift. So your year 10, year 11s, I think your percentage would start to change. I think you're lower down and in primary school would definitely be more the parent. I think as the child gets older, I think they need to take more responsibility.
Yeah, and absolutely. And because I've spent most of my career kind of teaching sixth form and post 16, and now I'm in FE, that's what we really try and nurture at that point.
That's got to be 40-40 between the parent and the student.
Well, yeah, the conversations I'm having in tutorials and one-to-ones is I'm having a conversation of like, well, what have you done? Kind of the emphasis is going back to the student at that point, not a child anymore, a student, a learner, and saying, well, just tell me what you've done so far. And the answer, it shouldn't be nothing, should it really? On that, if it is nothing, we can give guidance and we can support, okay. But the kind of the leading role, kind of as you said, comes more and more from the student. Yeah. And that's growing up, isn't it? That's being professional. That's being work ready.
That's taking responsibility. That's being a young adult. That's maturing. That's taking ownership. That's not my fault. How about homework? I'm going to start with homework and say that homework is 33. I think homework should be a 3-way split. I think parents have an obligation to make sure their children are doing homework when they're at home. I think children have an obligation to do their homework and inform parents that they've got homework. And I think teachers have got to, to set the homework, also monitor the homework, check the homework. So I think that's an even 3-way split.
Yeah, I think homework is a challenging one because, I've seen it on both sides. I've seen it from a parent's point of view as it kind of all dumps in on a Friday night thinking that's not good. Why has a teacher just forgot how to do all that? That's inappropriate use of homework, isn't it? And sometimes I do think sometimes like a school has a policy on homework where they're just sending stuff out just to tick a box. And actually, is it relevant to do homework at this stage? Is it just that you just fill in the time so every subject has an hour? Or actually, is it the conversations just covered? Like my daughter's doing some work around the kind of British Empire at the minute. Obviously, we've got kind of a mixed heritage kind of family. We want to have that conversation. So her teacher's given her a bit more stuff. Yeah. So we want to explore that more as a family. So, it depends kind of, again, homework should be kind of, or independent learning, whatever you want to call it, out of classroom learning should be more independent anyway. It should be kind of...
you think more on the student there rather than...
I think it depends on the learner. So it depends on the culture as they've kind of grown up. Are they naturally inquisitive people anyway? and therefore they're going to find things out and want to kind of discuss things. Therefore, it moves away from this kind of forced homework. And here, this might be unpopular, but I think that actually for some students, it might be that they don't just sit there. Like sometimes my daughter is just doing a kind of, a random quiz in music, just so music can tick the homework box. So homework's been set by music.
That's what I'm saying. It's got to be some responsibility of the school to make sure the homework's appropriate and not just.
I would rather her, meaning she wants to kind of find some pictures of her kind of family heritage, is have to use that time on a Saturday morning to go and do that properly.
Yeah.
And I can support her with that rather than her getting stressed that she might get a detention for.
That's why I think it's a three-way split, because
she's not taking a picture of a piece of food.
But you support the child does the work and involves the parent, because I think the best, most powerful homeworks are when the parent's engaged. I mean, not when you talk about why aren't children engaging in reading? Well, because parents assume when children get at a certain age, it's okay, you go off and read. Whereas the most powerful thing to do is to read with your children.
Even now, so we're having this. So my daughter's 11 and 13. We're still having that conversation now. In fact, I almost joked the other day that if you don't settle down and do some reading tonight, because they were just messing around upstairs, I'm going to go back to almost like putting you to bed. And sit there in your room while you do some reading, if that's what I need. I
remember my homeworks at the dinner table, doing my homeworks with my mother and her engaging with me back and forward. What are you learning, son?
Absolutely.
One of the most frustrating things with my young children is like, what'd you do at school today? Nothing. You really need almost a brain probe to go, let me see. And I go, let me see your book then. And as soon as I say, can I see your book? Oh, okay. And then they offload of what they've done. They just, sometimes you have to sort of spend the time to sort of cross-reference and almost interrogate your child of like, have you got homework? Have you done this? And you literally, and then when you engage with them, you're like, and sometimes she comes home and says, Dad, I did some history today. And it's like, I've learned this. Do you know this? And do you know that? And that makes my evening, that my child's coming home and actually saying, I've learned this at school today, Daddy. And you go, yeah. And I don't think a lot of children get that sometimes because of the way
we've talked before about there's a huge disparity between kind of poorer families here where they are working kind of long hours, and and survival is absolutely kind of key. And I 100% empathize with that kind of situation. I know that happens up and down the country, and you can kind of almost plot it on a map, can't you? Where the big issues are in the kind of country around kind of gig hours, 0 hours contracts.
On to equipment. Equipment. Now, I'm going to say this with equipment. I'm going to be controversial and say equipment is 50% the student, 40% the parent, and 10% the school.
I think the child really should be kind of leading the fact that they haven't got equipment. But again, I will go.
Not going to pen, sir.
I'll go back to.
You got a smartphone. Get a pen.
I will go back to my role as a parent that we have done. We kind of carry on. Will do is we do look in the pencil cases. We do see what's in there, and we kind of get them sometimes to get them out on the table and see the kind of state that they're in. We kind of do. My wife's very good at doing like an audit check. let's have a look at what we it's coming up to half term. What have we got? Do you know what I mean?
This pencil is not regulation size any longer.
Like a bit of a kind of audit check. I'm not too good at it. I wouldn't know. I'm not going in the bags, but
I check my tutor group every morning now.
Yeah.
Pen, pencil, ruler, calculator, and I will give them equipment, but I give them equipment on the premise that they look after that and they give me that pen back so I can give it to somebody else. And I've noticed that, for instance, students forget tie. Give me your smartphone. That gets put in a safe. There's your tie. And I think it is that aspect of they can be bothered bringing the things they shouldn't bring to school. Hello, Mr. McVippy, but they can't be bothered bringing a pen. I tell you what, nothing wrong with that. So no, I'm not a big fan of the way that children look at me and go, sir, I've not got a pen. And I go, wow, great, I'm a stationer now, am I? And they go, what? I'm a teacher, I can't do the work. Well then, what do you want me to do?
Can I say, can I stand up for those students that just putting it out there, because I would be one of these students, and I am, like this as an adult, lose pens and stationery a lot. during the school day. I don't have it. Kind of leaks away from me. I kind of have a pen in my pocket, and then by the end of the day, I'm kind of searching for the pen, and I've kind of found a new pen. I've gone to a new pen, and by the end of the day, I've got a little stub of pencil.
But the ones I give equipment to happen to be the ones that are forgetful, behavior. There's a certain pattern. You think they rock up late, they've not got a pen, and you're like, you're not taking it seriously. And again, it's that standards thing, isn't it? It's about them taking responsibility. Because I had a child come to me and say, I've not got a pen. And they looked at me as if like, I'm the one at fault. I'm like, you came to class without a pen. Oh, but it's not my fault. It's not my fault. And you're like, well, who is it? The pen fairy? And you go, you lost your pen. Fine. Take responsibility for it. Ask me nicely. Sir, I'm really, really sorry. I've forgotten a pen. I know that's not acceptable, but can you lend me a pen? Is that okay? That I'm all right with. But it's when you get the kind of like, I'm not going to pen. Well, hello, Hogwarts, Piro Peno. I mean, it's just the attitude that really stinks sometimes. So that one's one of my bugbears when I get kids, basically saying, they've not got equipment. And you think, well, you've got equipment. And again, poverty plays an issue in that. But I'll be honest with you, pens aren't that expensive. They aren't that expensive. And what really grinds my gears is when you give equipment to people and you know that they are in a disadvantaged background and they lose that. And you think, that's not fair. That's just, come on now. You got given something. And it comes back to that given something versus something that's earned. And I think, again, we're too busy sometimes giving equipment to people and saying, right, I'd like that back. Thanks very much. Lastly, uniform.
Well, okay, I think uniform, we're going to be really quick on this one because I know you want to blast through these famous people. So, uniform, well, I think forgetting the uniform is parents in the first instance. But then again, it's the parents to check. I'm checking out the door. Sometimes my kids kind of look thinking, how you managed to do your shirt like that? And then they're kind of fairly tiny people. So it still needs a little bit of nurturing care to get your child kind of ready, even at teenagers, to make them kind of look smart and make sure they've got the right uniform in the first place. Then it's on the child to obviously make sure they kind of maintain the uniform. So we have a thing where uniform has to be put away properly. It doesn't get thrown on the bedroom floor and left there till the next morning, so no one can find the tie. So that's a bit of us as well and them. And I guess the teacher's responsibility then is to kind of enforce a uniform policy. So
I agree. I think
can we go the thirds?
I go thirds. I think parents to buy the uniform, look after the uniform, provide the uniform. Schools to make sure the uniform is affordable and appropriate. And I think some schools are being a bit silly with logos and have gone a bit too far with their branding. So I think some schools need to rein that in. I think some parents need to be more supportive. And I think the kids need to look after the uniform. They're lost and found. Honest to goodness. They just, again, like they're playing. They're so terrible with how they look after uniforms and equally how they wear it. They've got a pride in the uniform. So I think that's a shared responsibility. Parents need to.
Right, because we've got Chris W kind of coming up, Brent. So do you want to whack through, get through some of these?
So these are kids basically said to me during the week, sir, what would you do if you weren't a teacher? And they sort of come up with some sort of jobs that I would do. And I said, well, I have done some of these. So we have Sting here. And Sting was a teacher at one stage. He's called Sting because of that shirt, by the way, because he wore shirts that were yellow like that pattern, hence why they called him Sting. He was an English teacher and a sports coach in the 70s. So he's pretty cool.
Okay, next one, because we've got loads of these.
Why the song "Don't Stand So Close to Me"? That's where he got that one from. Hugh Jackman was assistant head and a PE teacher, and he was in England. He did that quite young in England, and I've actually seen an interview where the guy interviewing him was actually one of his ex-pupils. A guy called Rolo, and he's like, I taught you PE, and he's like, yes, sir. And he goes, you don't have to call me sir. And it's one of the coolest interviews where Hugh Jackman's actually been interviewed by one of his ex-pupils. So Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, was a teacher. Brian May is a genius. People know that about him. He's maths and science genius. And before he was a rock star, he actually was a maths and science teacher as well. And a lot of the science of what he was doing, the music, was basically coming from him. Very, very intelligent man. So Brian May, we will rock you. Ramesh Ramgathan he was a teacher up until 2011 in comedy. And again, a lot of comedians end up as teachers. Again, I think he was maths, was he? I think he was a maths teacher. And again, he was a very good teacher according to his pupils. Next, we've got Princess Diana was a teaching assistant. So actually, she was a TA, and there she is when she was 18. I think 18, 19, she was working in nursery as a teaching assistant. So,
okay, bong. I'm going to have to leave you there. We've got
Barack Obama. No, Barack Obama. We'll keep going. Barack Obama. Barack Obama was, in fact, also a senior lecturer. And the other ones are Hillary Clinton was a teacher. Greg Davis was playing himself as a teacher, and he was a teacher as well. We've got Liam Neeson, whose cousin taught me. Now, Liam Neeson is interesting. Stop. No, stop. No, Liam Neeson.
Just mute him so I can do the adverts.
No.
Mute him. That's it. Right, brilliant. So we'd just like to say thank you to our sponsors, John Catt and Reading Solutions, and you can visit John Catt Bookshop to get your use the code JCTTR2425. This is brilliant, kind of muting Brent, isn't it? For 20% off your order. And if you want your free pilot, Brent's pilots in the post, you can go to Reading Solutions UK, search Reading Solutions UK for a 4-week pilot today. We've got Chris W. Forgotten his surname. Sorry, Chris is on the other line. Maybe you can free up Brent. You could give me Chris's surname. That would help. Brent, save me. He's on mute. He's gone. Chris, forgotten his surname. Sorry.
I'm still in Liam Neeson, who basically punched a kid. You know what I mean? He had a particular set of skills.
Chris Wilkinson. Thank you.
Wilkinson, yes.
For filling me in. Next week, I'll be kind of reflecting on Ofsted. If you want to listen to any previous Education Tonight shows, you can find them on Spotify. You can find them on YouTube. Just search for us. Keep following kind of Teachers Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week. Have a good week.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.